There are way too many things to draw in this world. And I don't mean to say it as a challenge, but the good news is probably a lot of those things will not interest you in any way. But I do recommend getting a general picture of the scope of everything is pretty important. So there's specializing. If I could write my wow, why can't I write a P today? There's the domain of specializing. And there is the domain of generalizing. And like most things in art, you kind of have to find a midway point. And then after that point, you could make a decision to branch from there. So, specializing, you tend to pigeonhole yourself into what you draw. So when you pigeonhole, when you do that, you pretty much are dedicated to only being able to draw one type of thing in one particular way. So I think that if you're a professional and maybe you have done a lot of generalization drawing and you kind of learned a lot of stuff, then you can move on to pigeonholing yourself. Maybe what you wanted to do has arisen out of generalizing about a bunch of things, and then I would say, okay, go ahead and pigeonhole yourself. But like that may just be a career choice. Like you always have the ability to draw other things. So I think when it comes to starting out and trying to learn to generalize, you want to do things like a box, like being able to draw basic shapes, understanding how they sit in 3D space, understanding how light and shade affects them. But the thing about the basic shapes is they kind of eventually spill into the more complex. Basically, they are so simple. Well, they're not as simple as you want them to be. They're kind of simple, in which they help you understand simple concepts so you can go on to more complex ones. And I would say the simple shapes are all like, I'm doing this really sloppily. I would say the basic shapes are like a box in 3D space, a sphere in 3D space, a plane in 3D space, a cylinder in 3D space, a pyramid in 3D space, a cone in 3D space. There are other shapes as well. There's like a bean. Like there's a lot, and you can put like a pull on it. There are like ribbons. It's a bit endless with how you do it. It is a bit endless, and there's probably always some new shape you'll kind of learn about that you eventually may want to expand upon. But it's kind of difficult to really know everything you're going to need all at once, but I would say learning it over time. I do recommend you pick up a copy of a book called Perspective Made Easy, as it covers a lot of that. So we have the shapes, which I feel like everyone should know, because everything like man-made is usually a derivative of that. Organic shapes tend to fall into like a weird realm, and more often than not they tend to be a mix between the simple shapes and ribbons, but some of them are like really weird variations. They're kind of like unique on themselves, and I have seen some books try to say, oh, you could think of a segment of the human arm as a cylinder that's tapering that kind of also has a sphere attached at the joints. I think shapes on people and animals are a bit unique, and I don't think it's good to kind of try to think of it in those terms. I mean, if it makes it easy for you to understand, I would say go with it. The next thing that I would say that follows under generalization, botanicals. Think of like leaves, flowers, pretty much any type of like plant that could be growing, like say a carrot. I'm not saying you have to draw every one in existence, but at least one, or maybe spend a little time, or even like a potato, which kind of falls into the bean analogy of a shape. The next thing that I would say would be insects and arachnids. Where would we be without our bugs in the world? Nature's cleanup crew. Yeah, where would we be without them? We would be swarming in filth and a lot of waste and a lot of lack of balance. The next thing, so the thing about insects and arachnids is the fact that they have an exoskeleton, most of them, so it kind of makes them makes studying them a much different use case, and I think it's kind of more convenient to study and understand them from all angles. Now after that, I think it becomes really weird because I think animals are more often difficult to draw than humans because a lot of them are quadrupeds. Like, I can't draw all of this stuff perfectly yet. I still lack a lot of practice. So the problem that you have here, how do I draw a bunny? Just going to draw a very shorthand rabbit. Animals, quadrupeds are really difficult to draw because I feel like their fur and skin really obscures their skeleton structure. There is a book on drawing animal anatomy, and it focuses on like the skeletons of various animals, and you want to pick that up if you can because, like I said, animals and quadrupeds, I feel like they're more difficult, but I don't know, some people may say otherwise. Then you have humans, which are really difficult. They're, people spend their entire art career drawing nothing but like either animals or humans. And it is important to do an anatomy, but like anatomy's so big. I mean, you have like muscles and body fat and hair, and it's just like you have all of these complexities that you're really going with. So try a little bit, maybe. A little knowledge, they say, is a dangerous thing, but I think kind of delving into all of these is good. Now the last one I want to talk about are the inorganics. Now these are things like industrial made stuff. Like I would say things like a glass of water. Like the glass, like you're not going to find a water glass in nature. This was made by either a machine or a person. So you have to think of it like that. I think inorganics are the most difficult thing to draw because they usually require straight lines. And I think straight lines are incredibly difficult for humans to draw because we're not robots, and I feel like there's always some curvature to your line, no matter how straight you do it, unless you're using like a roller or a machine of some type to help you accomplish that. So I think if you try all of these things in the realm of generalization, and eventually you do understand light and shadow, perspective, you could eventually start going into the specialization side. And I'm not saying you have to stay in the role of specialization, but like I feel like in the realm of specialization, you eventually delve into things like composition, which is a whole craft in itself, and it has to do with all, like, it seems more like patterns, but I know that's probably not always the case. So I think being able to grasp the generalization of everything for many, many years. I would say about 5 to 10 years before you start doing the specialization type stuff. And I would even say that when it comes to specialization, I think light and shadow would kind of fall in that realm. And color would fall in that realm. So yeah, I think when it comes to your art career, it would kind of be like that. But I have to say that if you truly like drawing something, always do it every day. Don't let it stop you. So draw what you like, even if you can't. That's what I think is important, because I think your specialization will eventually arise naturally through your experience. But hey, I don't know everything, but I hope this kind of helps give you some information about structuring your drawing career. So thanks for listening. If you have a question, please put in the comments. I'm sure I'll do a follow-up video to this in the future. If you like my channel, please subscribe. If you like the video, please like it. Thanks for listening. Bye.